The school was much simpler, much smaller. It was crazy. When they first started building the school, they hadn't finished construction. So when I was teaching, they were using power saws and hammers in the classroom while I was trying to teach. It was insane. I started here the year the school opened, which was 1978. Kids act like they are today, you know. I mean, the freshmen were squirrely, you know, still having pencil and pen fights, and you know, the sophomores thought they were really smart, but were pretty much dumb. And you know, the juniors and seniors were into being cool. Same thing today. Oh, we only had probably 22, 23 kids in the class then. It was really nice. Yes, of course, it was Mr. Tom Tuller. Great guy. Oh, that's a tough question. I'd probably say all of the 100 building, there was 5 or 6 classrooms in the science. There's probably 30 classrooms, 30, 35 classrooms. No. The old science building is where the multi-purpose room is now. And there were 4 nice classrooms and 3 horrible classrooms.
We probably spent a lot of time using overhead projectors, and we had things called opaque projectors. That's pretty much how we did things back then. Yeah, and we actually used the phones, and the phones all worked throughout the entire school, and that was we really depended on them in the old days. All chalkboards, and I had the distinction of getting the first white chalkboard because I was allergic to chalk dust. No, we did not have projectors back in the old days. We actually used, for our movies, in the original days here, early 80s, we had the old films where we'd set up with projection system, old projection films, like you see in the movie theaters. That's how we showed films. In the earliest days of the schools, we actually still had Xerox machines, but we had a few of the old ones where you'd hand crank copies. They were left over, and those are the ones where teachers would end up with like blue stuff all over your hands and face and stuff. For me, immensely. Being an older teacher, some of the older teachers haven't gotten into the technology stuff, but I depend on the projection system and PowerPoints and computers, and it's been challenging because if those projection systems go out, we're in big trouble here. Once they go out, because I pretty much do everything from that now.
Back when the school started, we actually had girls gymnastics, which is a very cool sport. Mr. McCormick was the coach, and that sport lasted for a few years, and then it slowly faded away. We had most of the sports that we still have today, though. Lacrosse wasn't around yet, though. No, the teams are a lot smaller. Some of the kids were physically smaller, and the numbers were physically smaller. Back in 1980, when I started, the only really big teams, I think, were football and maybe track and wrestling. Okay, the fields. Start with the track. It's not exactly a field, but it's one of the facilities. Back in the day, it was decomposed granite, which is a kind of a dirt, ground up rock. And every time it rained, the track would get muddy. People would have to be out there pushing water off the track and scraping the track and dragging the track. It took forever to get it ready, and a lot of coaches spent a lot of time getting the track ready. And then the field, the football field, soccer field down there, every winter it got demoed. Soccer would get out there after football practice on all fall. As soon as it started raining, it would turn to mud and then rip up the field every year, replant it every year. And now we've got a beautiful stadium with turf. It's awesome. Yep, I coached cross country and I coached track for a long time. I coached cross country here for 26 years and track for most of those years. I took a couple years off. It was a very rewarding experience. I had a lot of kids come through the school that ran our cross country and track teams. I think things have changed. I think more kids are probably specializing on individual sports and not participating in multiple sports. We were a lot smaller back then. We had about 900 kids, maybe 1,000 kids. And it was tough running a program if you didn't have kids going from a fall sport to a winter sport to a spring sport. Nowadays, I think more kids play maybe one, maybe two.
Oh boy, we were in the middle of a lot of open land when I first started at school in 1984. I know working on the lower field as soccer coach kind of seemed like we were out in the middle of Wyoming. There were cows on the local hills and you couldn't see a house from down there. Yeah, I think the kids were a little more laid back when the school first opened. I think there's a lot of pressure on kids today to excel and a lot more competition to get into college. So I sense a more competitive student body maybe than in the past. In terms of size, pretty significantly. You know, the new science wing, the new stadium, the auxiliary gym. School looks a lot different than when it first opened. You know, when there was a couple years when, as an English teacher, we only had 20 kids in a class. The ratio was 20 to 1. Classes are a lot bigger. Right now, I think every desk in each of my classes is filled, so a lot more students. I don't know, it seems like the kids are real active during lunch. I know that dodgeball tournament's pretty popular. I think there's a lot more things going on at lunch and snack that we didn't used to have before. I don't remember when the school first opened of an international week and those kind of celebrations that our school has now.
Oh, this is a great school. The students are fantastic. You guys are the best kids in the state. I mean, I've really had it's been a great career.
I really have always enjoyed the students first. Also, the faculty has been great. Parents have been great.
The main reason I enjoy teaching here is the community, the kids that we have here. Great kids, really super parents, a lot of support. And over the years, the faculty that I've worked with and the administrations I've worked with have been very, very good.
I've been part of the community since 1976 over at Los Alisos. So I think I know a lot of the families, and I don't know. I like the communities here in the Saddleback Valley.
Oh God, there've been so many. I can't say them all. I mean, there've been so many funny things. That the time when Perry Livingston left a fake bomb in my mailbox, that was a classic. The time Mr. Curley, well, all the times Mr. Curley came in our room and gave me grief, and there've been many, many, many good times.
I have a couple of them. Probably the one that really stands out is years back we did a Civil War reenactment. We did one here recently, but in the old days I organized it with a teacher that's now retired, and we'd go 3 days. We reenacted Pickett's charge, and we involved a marching band, and it was a big, big activity. And also I did a couple films with seniors here, one on Balboa Island, and I did another one that was a spoof on Endless Summer. It was a surf video.
My most memorable moment teaching, I remember very, very vividly. It happened back in the spring of 1999. My daughter was actually in my class, and she's very quiet. She never asked me a question the entire year. I never even knew what she would call me if she raised her hand. Would she call me Mr. Dempsey or Dad? So finally, it's about the last week of school, she raises her hand, and I'm going, she's got a question. I said, yes. She said, Dad, some of the kids are going out for bagels. Would you like one? And if so, what kind? That was my most memorable moment when my daughter asked me a question in class. By the way, the answer was poppy seed. Lightly buttered.
Oh, and from a selfish perspective, probably the year our soccer team won the CIF championship way back in 1990. I remember coming back into the room after the game, and Mrs. Ott and a lot of the teachers had filled the room just absolutely waist high with balloons. It was really cool to walk in with the team. That was fun.
So I can torture students. It's just so much fun. I mean, it's the only place where like a little guy like me could have so much power and authority. I mean, look at some of your other teachers. You could see them, those ones out there that, you know, they're losers, but they've got power and they love it and they use it in the classroom.
As I said before, I've always have liked the kids, and that's what's kind of kept me in the game, so to speak, and that's been the most important thing. I still like the kids even this day.
I wanted to become a teacher for two reasons. I really like science, and I really like working with kids. And I figured that out about a little bit past the halfway mark in my college career. And when I started working with kids during the summer, and obviously I was a science major, and I thought, this is for me. And I like coaching too, so it all worked out really well.
I've known I wanted to be a teacher ever since I was a little kid. I like school. I like going to school. I like the summer vacations. So I've known I've always wanted to be a teacher. It's in my family. My whole family's teachers. When I first started here in 1984, there was a story that our school used to, where our school sits on top of this hill, there used to be a tree up here, and I'm talking back to the 1800s when Ortega Highway and El Toro Road were kind of the only roads around here. And there was a tree supposedly that went right down where the elevator shaft is, and it was a tree on which they hanged people. A lot of horse traders were hanged. And there was a legend that when our school first opened at night, they saw people in the main corridors right around the elevator shaft, kind of ghosts. And I will say I've had a couple nights when I've had to spend the night at Laguna Hills guarding Christmas trees, and I've gone into the main corridor to use the bathroom, and it feels kind of eerie. So that was kind of a legend of our school back in the early days.